Hey, what's up guys? So we're here to showcase off the new Dream Mirrors in action. This is a TCG exclusive archetype, and we can finally play it now because we have finally enough cards to actually run it. But this guy dirties him really hard over here. He's actually playing like kind of like a reverse burn deck, and he actually pulls off a heavy slump. So he has to get rid of all the cards in his hand and then draw 2 cards, which is really unfortunate to run into. But the first duel over here is going to showcase off how good the deck is with its free searchability and its ability to kind of come back right into the game simply by being able to cycle through a lot of cards, because the deck is all about having like a duality, a light and a dark version of a card, or like a good and evil version of a card. But anyways, the whole point of the deck is actually to dodge a lot of things. Like, the deck doesn't focus too much around OTKing, although you can tactically do it. The main point of the deck is basically being able to, as a quick effect, dodge and go right into the other form of the card. And then you also happen to have one of the newer cards, the Dream Mirror Fantasy, which makes it so as long as you happen to have both of the field spells that are banished, you get to shuffle them back into the deck, and then you go ahead and banish a card. And then whenever your Dream Mirror cards would be destroyed battle by card effect, you can actually banish this card to keep your cards alive. So the whole deck is basically a very resilient deck. That's the point of it. Basically, all these cards dodge into other things. The I'm gonna call this like the joy is the, I guess, the light version, if you will. So as soon as it's activated, you're going to be able to make it so Dream Mirror monsters you control cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effects or their monster attacks, except for the Dream Mirror monster with the highest level. So it basically protects your small monsters because you're going to dodge your stuff and go into higher ones. And then the Dream Mirror of Terror, because both of these can cycle into each other. Joy can go right into Terror and go right back into Joy, so you have fuel instantly for your Dream Mirror Fantasy. And then with Terror, every time your opponent special summons, you can do 300 points of damage, which actually can add up, and you'll see in a duel here how good this card can be. So I guess ideally what you'd be able to do turn 1 is maybe you go for the fusion, you'd go for the card that lets you banish 1 card, and there's a card that is a spell speed 3 counter trap card that can go ahead and negate anything essentially, and I'll explain that in a second once we go into it. But it's basically to show off this duel over here, showing off how good the deck is. Even though he only had 2 cards, his opponent hummingbirded him, he got multiple cup of aces. It just shows you again. I know this burn isn't really that relevant right now in the game, but nonetheless, it is pretty nasty if you go ahead and heavy slump. So this guy's playing some Sky Strikers over here. He's going to go ahead and search out for the Dream Mirror, and he's going to go ahead and go right into the cycling, and basically this card searches out another card. And here we have the fusion. So the fusion makes it so whenever I have another monster you control is tributed, which is basically any of the Dream Mirror monsters, you get to target 1 card in the field and pop it, and then if this card in its own possession is destroyed, you get to summon a Dream Mirror monster from your graveyard, which you should be able to actually have, because you're going to go ahead and utilize that fusion, which is a quick play, and fusion summon it. And then if a Dream Mirror of Joy is in a field zone, you can also use monsters from your hand as material. And then also if Dream Mirror of Terror is there, you can also banish them from your graveyard, but whatever you want to keep to be able to get out with this card once again, make sure you go for the right card. So he's going to go ahead and cycle through the card over here, just so we can go and have multiple monsters in the graveyard to go ahead and select as targets as well. So he's going to go ahead and use that Dark Ruler no more. He had actually multiple copies of this, but he's going to go ahead and negate the effect, so he's not going to be able to pop a card, and then he's going to go ahead and cycle through some of the cards. And here's where you'll see a Rage Quit very soon. So he's going to go ahead and add that card, activate Engage. He's got Afterburner, so he's going to go ahead and pop that card. And on top of that, this card is going to go ahead and still bring out a monster, and he's going to go ahead and bring out the Phantasos, the Dream Mirror Friend. This is one of the newer cards that you can search out with Tenki. Adds a lot more consistency. And then he's going to have this effect where he's going to go ahead and special summon another monster. He's going to go ahead and attempt to Widow Anchor to either negate or actually take the monster. And then he's going to go ahead and chain this effect because it's a quick effect to tribute it, so it goes ahead and goes off the board. And he's still going to go ahead and get both of those effects. And his opponent is going to say, oh, yo, I done goofed over here. And he's going to be able to go ahead and proc those effects over here. And then he's going to be able to get a lot of free advantage. And the guy Rage Quit over here. I don't really feel like he needed to. Maybe he could have came back, but for the most part, he was probably just salty. He's like, oh, I messed up really bad on that Widow Anchor. But this next duel over here is going to be up against Time Lords. I'm going to show off the newer card. Well, most of these cards are actually newer. There's actually only a few Dream Mirror cards that got released initially. It was, like I said, unplayable, but now we can finally play a Dream Mirror deck. But Wonder Romancy over here is the Counter Trap card. So This card has the effect where you get to activate one of these effects when your opponent activates a spell or trap. While a Dreamer of Joy is up on the board, you get to negate that and destroy it. And then if a Dreamer of Terror is up on the board, when they would special summon monster, you get to negate and destroy that. And like I said before, with the field spell, you can actually choose what you want to go ahead and go into, because instantly, once you get to the end phase, you're going to be able to go right into Terror, and then Terror can go back into Joy. So again, you can cycle through your cards really fast and have Fantasy be live pretty much instantly. So I guess you can maybe have like 3 forms of negation in this deck, and then on top of that, you have potential dodge mechanics, right? But as far as the archetype goes right now, I don't know if I would consider it like insanely high S tier, and I'll also give you guys the deck profile for this deck in case you guys want to go ahead and try out like a pure variant, and the guy just goes ahead and says, you know what, I can't really do too much just with an Exodius, because, well, that's not going to do much if you reset it and summon that one card. Now, this duel over here is going to show you how powerful the field spell is, because it does add up quite quick. This is up against Trickstars that are more so, I guess, Link-oriented. A variant. I haven't really seen too many Trickstar decks. I know it was one of the more popular decks, but obviously due to the way that this game has gotten to be a lot faster, going second with Trickstars can be quite tough, unless of course you're playing like Trickstar Sky Striker, and then that can be a little bit better sometimes. But he's going to go ahead and utilize that reincarnation, but that actually kind of helps him, because Dreamer of Terror is actually going to be essentially just banished, so that makes his other cards live a lot faster, which is going to be the Fantasy. So Phantasms can be just a really good card in the deck, because not only does it search out the cards, but this also has kind of like a duality effect. So if Joy is up on the board, all monsters gain 500/500, their Dream Mirror, and if Terror is up on the board, all of your opponent's stuff loses 500/500. So it is really nice just to have out, because basically what you try to do is during your turn, you try to get that boost up attack so you can do a bunch of damage. Then once your opponent's turn, you reduce everything. That's kind of what you're supposed to do. Usually you want Terror up during your opponent's turn, because again, every time they special summon, as long as you control a dark one, which is really easy to do. And also another thing with Earl King, which is the new boss fusion monster, it actually becomes dark attribute. It is a light card, but it also becomes dark attribute, so that's kind of cool. Basically allows you to go through whatever card that you want to go to. So I like it. It's a relatively good effect. And again, whenever you're tributing card, you get to pop something. So he's going to go ahead and have the Fantasy over here, which again, he can banish to protect, because he's trying to protect the smaller monsters. Joy technically protects the smaller monsters anyways, because it forces them to only attack the Dream Mirror with the highest level. But basically, that's the point of the deck. And you guys can basically get an idea of how the deck plays now. I'm curious to know what you guys think of the deck after seeing some gameplay. I think, like I said, it's very resilient, but I think that most Yu-Gi-Oh decks either want to OTK or stun your opponent, and the stun with this deck, like I said before, like I mean, sometimes this could be good. Terror, if your opponent activates like a Destrudo, you can actually beat them by just themselves, right? But remember, every time he special summons, he has to lose 300. Kind of like how the Trickstars start burning for 200, he's burning for 300. And most decks will need a special summon. So I think ideally what you can do with this deck is, if you can deal a decent amount of damage and put them at like maybe 900 or lower, it makes it very difficult for majority of decks to really deal with it. But even at like maybe 1,500 life points, you're going to go ahead and burn them just for a game. But you can see the game is getting very close, and it will get closer and closer as the Trickstar player starts burning over and over again. So he's got 200 life points, but we have Joy up on the board right now. And at this point, we're looking pretty good. He's only got 200 life points, and he can't special summon. If he special summons, he takes 300 points of burn damage, and so that's going to go ahead and be GG. So that was great use of Terra. But yo, shout out to my homie Tsubasa for actually building this variant up the deck. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys the exact profile. This is more of a pure variant. I think you can definitely make use of most of the hand traps in this deck. There's not any downside, and they're all light and dark, so maybe go ahead and throw our big boy BLS in here. But I do want to mention something, because the deck doesn't really need an extract. You could definitely make extravagance, if I could spell. You can make great use of extravagance, because, well, again, the deck doesn't really need to go into the extra deck, obviously with the exception of Earl King, and most of the duels you probably only need to go for this card like once or twice. But anyways, onwards with the deck profile. Again, this is basically to show off the deck, so like I said, you probably want to put hand traps in here, but there's basically 3 copies of every single one of the Dream Mirrors. So we got 3 copies of Morpheus, we got the White Knight, then we got the Foe, we got the Friend, we've got Mara, and then Mirror Sprite, and then we've got 1-for-1, Terraforming, Reborn, 2 copies of the Dream Mirror of Chaos, which is the fusion. Then we got 3 copies of Tenki. To, of course, go for either one. It actually helps out the deck so much. Then we have 3 copies of Phantasms, 3 copies of Terror, 3 copies of Joy, 3 copies of Fantasy, 1 Metaverse, 2 copies of the Hypogogia. So this one I didn't actually get to talk about, but you choose 1 Dream Mirror of Joy and 1 Dream Mirror of Terror from your hand and or deck, and you place 1 in your field zone and 1 in your opponent's. This is actually really nasty because it potentially allows you to have control over both of them. So I like that. That is really cool, that it does actually have that ability to basically lock your opponent out sometimes. And you'd get both of, like, you'd have both of the choices of, let's say, this card over here, where is it? Actually, one of these effects, yeah. While Dream Mirror Joy is in a field, it just says in a field zone. It doesn't have to be like you control. So at this point, it lets you go for both of them. I think the deck is heavily reliant on the field spell. So if you don't have it, you can actually lose out to a lot of the cards because they kind of require it. There are some cards that lock your opponent, like was it Close Force or something like that, where it just makes it so your opponent can't use one. I don't know if people are going to side deck it because I don't know if this deck is going to be super competitive, at least as of right now. Yeah, then we were talking about Phantasms. Basically, there's 3 copies of everything. But anyways, that's it for the deck profile. Let me know, guys, what you think of the Dream Mirrors, that you've seen it in action down below in the comment section below. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like on it. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button, turn on that bell so you don't miss out on new Yu-Gi-Oh! Gameplays of the new archetypes coming out into the game. We still got a lot more to cover very soon here on this channel, and we will be covering it very soon. But if you guys want to send me any other replays, feel free to go ahead and do so. And shout out once again to my boy Tsubasa for hooking me up with this one over here. Well, thanks for tuning in. Have a good one. I'm signing out. Peace.